We are getting ready to start with this panel discussion featuring members of the Membership and Development Committee, specifically students or recent graduates who are going to talk a little bit about what it's like applying for college and what the process looks like, and some of the key things that you need to be aware of as a high school student or even a graduate student or undergraduate student looking into applying for graduate school. And so we're going to talk about audition prep. We're going to talk about selecting a program and what that looks like and how is that important for your future as a musician. We're going to talk about finding a teacher, and as that applies to also finding a program. We're going to talk about funding, scholarships, and assistantships. We're going to talk about degree programs and the differences between an arts degree, a music degree, and within that, a music minor if you're pursuing other things. So we're going to talk about lots of stuff. I have Sarah and Laura and Rung being here, and I think Emily's going to join us as well. So if you are joining us in the chat here, or if you are on Facebook and you have questions, I encourage you to type those in the chat or in the comments. I'm going to be monitoring that space on Facebook so that I can see any of those comments that are added there. Okay, just making sure we're still live. So first, I want to thank the Membership and Development Committee for their work in preparing this very substantial improvement on last year's Giving Tuesday event, which was mostly just me talking and asking for money. But this is a much better event than last year. And so I really appreciate their help and their dedication to making it possible. And I want to invite them to tell everyone a little bit about where they studied and what the process, if they're still in school, and what they're doing now. Just to give some background, you all heard my story before. I've been out of college since 2014, so my opinion is very irrelevant at this point because of the speed at which things change as far as college is concerned. Though some of that information I will chime in is timeless, and I'm sure other people who are in attendance in the session will be able to comment on that as well. So let's start with Sarah. Tell us a little bit about your education and what you're doing now.
Yeah. So I did my undergrad at UW-Stevens Point. When I was there, I did a double major in business administration and music performance. And I knew when I was finishing up that I wanted to go straight on to grad school. And I went to Southern Illinois University for my master's for clarinet performance. And as I finished that up, I graduated in May of this year. I did the DMA audition route, felt very overwhelmed by the whole process, decided to give it a little bit more time, and now I'm an elementary school music teacher, and I love it so much. So that's kind of been my route. It's been very all over the place, but I'm very happy with what I'm doing now.
Same question to you, Laura.
Yeah, hi, I'm Laura. I'm a recent graduate from Baylor. So I did my undergrad at Penn State. I graduated in 2021, which meant that I was doing my grad school auditions during COVID, which was really exciting. So then I went to Baylor so my undergrad was in music ed, and now I just finished my master's in music performance on clarinet. I actually took an audition for the Navy Fleet Band in August and won, but I decided not to take it to pursue teaching for a little bit, and I deferred them. So if I want to go back, I just have to re-audition, but there'll be a note on my file that says position offered. And now I'm a leave replacement for choir, which is very exciting. Started yesterday, and I'm teaching general music and choir, and it's been really exciting. It's been a change of pace from going from band to choir, but it's been really exciting. And I would always recommend having an open mind because you never know where life is going to take you.
I mentioned this earlier. I did my bachelor's degree in music education and performance with the intention of becoming a band director, and had a hard pivot in the middle of my student teaching, but it took me a while to sort of realize what that was like. So it's great to have educators here. Also, Rongbing is a public educator as well. Emily will be joining us. Emily Rose is the chair of the co-chair with Rongbing of the Membership and Development Committee. And so she'll be here shortly. She just gave an incredible recital. So yesterday was, I think, her 4th DMA recital. She is a student at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. So she is a current student and would be able to share her experiences when she joins us. So I want to talk a little bit, and maybe for both of you, it has been a while since you played an audition. I haven't played an audition in a while. But can you go back in your brain and let us know what are some tips that you have for our students who are preparing auditions on how to get ready for that process? And Emily is here. Let me get her in here. What does that look like now? What does that process look like, or what kind of tips do you have for people who are preparing to audition, be it for undergraduate programs or for graduate degrees, since you've both kind of done that?
I have to say that for anything that you're doing, grad school or undergrad, in the audition process, like, you have time to breathe between pieces and think about it. They're not there to rush you. They want you to be successful. So make sure in the moment you take a minute to, okay, this is what this piece sounds like in my head. This is how I want it to sound. This is the mood I want to give. Like, take that time, because everyone wants you to be successful. They want to hear how well you play. And if you just rush into it, it's gonna, like, you want to be done with it. Like, oh, this is so stressful, but just take a breath, relax, and then just think about how you want it to sound, because how you want it to sound when you're thinking about it is how it'll usually come out when you play it.
I think something I took into consideration applying for grad school specifically was what music best represents me auditioning for performance degrees. I know some schools have specific requirements of excerpts in Mozart and certain pieces that they want to hear you play. But I think too, if you have the choice to picking pieces you love that you know and are at the level where you should be are a really great way to introduce yourself through your music, not only with like your personality and all that, but it shows directly in how you play.
Perfect. I'm gonna get Emily in here. Hi, Emily. Congratulations on your 4th DMA recital.
Thank you.
So Emily is, as I mentioned, a current student at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. She studies with Diane. Emily, I want you to kind of talk with everybody about your education path and what that looked like, and how you decided to go about approaching studying for a master's in a DMA. What led you to that decision?
Oh, that's a tough one. Oh man. Well, I'd always heard that, man, I don't even know how to start this. I knew from the time that I was in like middle school and things that I wanted to do something musically related. I just didn't know in what way I could do that really. And the only thing I ever knew was to do performance of some sort, or, well, you either had to be the next Martin Frost or you needed to be a band director. And in the area where I grew up and where I'm from, band director seemed to be the way to do it. And as I kept going through school and I met some professionals, it seemed like there was more to do in music than just being one or the other. And I became aware of, what being an entrepreneur really is for you as a performer, as an educator, because even though you are teaching students in everyday life, you still need to be getting out there and working with the community, your band boosters and everything, because they're the ones that pretty much make your program run. So deciding to do a master's degree was natural because I really like school. I might be weird, but I love learning and I loved the environment. So after I finished my degrees, I was like, well, I have to keep going because I want to be a doctor one day. So the only way I'm going to do that is for me to keep going. But I don't know. It was just kind of a natural progression, I guess. The progression from master's to doctorate it became natural, but at like in my undergrad, when I was thinking about knowing that do I really want to go through with this and get a doctoral degree? At the time, it seemed very, very daunting and it was terrifying. But then in my master's degree, it was like, what's a couple more years? I already did the undergraduate degree. So it'll be okay. That was kind of what it was like for me, I guess.
I had a similar feeling too when I finished my undergrad. I gave my senior recital because I did a double in performance and ed, and the senior recital at the time, I don't know how many years ago that wasn't required of a music education major, only a junior recital. And I gave a senior recital, and it was in that moment that I was like, oh, wow, I'm kind of sad that I'm just going to go do student teaching and I might not have this opportunity as much in the future to really push myself as a musician and to continue. Not that, teachers can't play. I mean, that's not what I'm saying. It's just, it was a very unique moment. And I decided, oh, I actually really like playing. And this is from me. I had nerves. I have incredible bad anxiety. Like, it's really bad. I take medicine for it. So, it was a really long, hard process for me to learn how to accept myself as a player throughout my bachelor's degree. And then I get on the stage during my senior recital and I programmed music that was fun. Oh my goodness, I programmed Artie Shaw Concerto with a full jazz band. I played the Sutermeister and I played Horace Staccato and Latin dances with my clarinet quartet. And it was just a really fun program. And when I finished with that Artie Shaw Concerto. I wore a zoot suit and a hat and swing dancing shoes. And it was just the most fun I'd ever had playing. And I was like, wow, I am really sad that I'm not doing this anymore, that I'm not studying, that I'm not learning and growing. And that was the moment for me that I was like, okay, I need to really think about what I want to do, And then of course my student teaching experience was where I really found out, hey, maybe we don't need to teach, 150 high school kids at the same time. We're not good at that. So once I learned that about myself, I started looking into programs. And I want to kind of like move over and talk about when you're looking at going to college. And this is as much important for undergraduate, but really, really important for grad school. Looking for a program that fits your needs, finding a teacher that understands you, that you have a good connection with, and that you're going to be able to spend, the next several years learning and growing from someone that you respect, someone that you admire, someone who's going to challenge you, but also respect you as a musician. Because when you get to the graduate level, you're approaching colleague level, right? You're getting to the point where people can trust that you know a little bit about what you're doing. And that's the trick, right? You got to find that place. For me, I was working on the Artie Shaw Concerto, and I drove a couple hours down the road to Middle Tennessee State University. And I had a lesson with Todd Waldecker, the professor there, and I just fell in love with his teaching. I was like, oh my gosh, I love this guy. We had a really great lesson, and I went back and had a couple more, and I was like, I would love to talk to him. So I reached out by email and I said, hey, I'm really interested in the program at MTSU. I think it might be something that I want to go into, is getting a master's degree. And that's how I sort of fell into that program. And so I'm curious for Sarah and Laura and Emily, what your thoughts on that are, as far as like finding a good fit for yourself with a program or for a teacher. I had a weird thing where when I was a baby, I wanted to go to UT Knoxville. I loved Rocky Top. I love the song Rocky Top. I know that's really strange. I used to dance to it in my stroller, and I wanted to be in the marching band when I was like 5. I was like, I want to go to UT. So there was no other program for me. And it just sort of happened that way. But it's not always the case. And you have lots of options when you're looking for programs. So let's start with Sarah. Talk about what your process is, what your process was for, finding a program, and how you approached looking for a good teacher for yourself.
Yeah. The teacher was my main focus of who are these people and am I able to connect with them? I remember specifically when I was applying for my master's, just like Laura, I did it during the pandemic. So it was all virtual over Zoom and video recordings. So I didn't get a chance to meet any of these people in person. And I reached out an email, did some Zoom calls and being able to connect with the people I did helped me narrow down like where I wanted to go and where to audition. And ultimately, I ended up going to Southern Illinois just because of Eric Mandat. He was so charismatic, so welcoming just in my initial conversations with him. And that continued throughout my degree too. He's just fantastic. And we were able to create such a strong connection. And I think that helped me achieve the goals I was looking for with my master's. And that was really important to me as well. I didn't want to just finish off the requirements so I could get into a military band or a doctoral program or to win an orchestral audition. I had interests that I wanted to pursue, like modern music. I'm really into 20th and 21st century stuff, and so he was obviously a great fit for that and helping me navigate that wide world of that kind of music. And um, I did the same thing for my doctorate. Luckily, I was able to travel for my auditions or my audition for my doctorates. And that too just helped me connect more like person to person. And I really appreciated that. It helped me give an idea of the studio and the school and what to actually expect outside of the internetscape.
How about you, Emily? Are you frozen? Oh, there you are.
Well, I will say for me, I had a bit of a different experience. Whenever I did the auditioning for my master's programs, it was pre-COVID. It was like a year or two or three, maybe four before COVID happened. So, I feel like the culture that I was in at that time and kind of surrounding auditions, it was really sought after for you to go in person if you could. It was implied from some people or like some people who were in my area range that were searching out programs that, oh, if you do it online, they're not going to consider you. There's no way they're online. The person who's going to be there in person is absolutely going to get it. And especially whenever it came to things like assistantships or any kind of financial assistance, which was a big concern for me as I was going through. But as I approached auditioning time, my teacher helped me pick out some various instructors, and I kind of told her what I wanted out of an instructor. I made it clear that, yeah, I want to go on for a master's program, but if I'm going to go on, I needed to be somebody who I'm going to like to work with and whose pedagogy I can stand behind, or they're an empathetic, compassionate professor, someone who will let me also do the things that I like to do. Like Sarah, I'm super into 20th century contemporary performance, electroacoustic literature, bass clarinet performance, any of those things. And I wanted to be able to find someone who would let me do that and wouldn't push back against my desire to do that, but would still make me take the steps necessary to, I need to learn the classical things. I need to learn the arias. I need to learn the orchestral rep, all the XYZ that you need to learn in the pyramid of clarinet playing. So I did 3 in-person auditions. I narrowed it down to as little as I could afford in terms of being able to go in person. And I went in person for all of my auditions. Those days that I went, though, I made myself available the entire day. So that way I could go audition, but I could also, and I would ask the professor, can I stay and observe you while you're, teaching this ensemble class, while you're doing this read day, extravaganza, while you're, can I tour the school a little bit? Can you tell me about the program? Can you tell me about the area, what opportunities there are? Are there any community programs? Is there any outreach as far as, teaching students, et cetera, et cetera? Because that all mattered to me. Because at that time I was a fresh music education graduate, and I was like, oh, I must teach. This is the way. This is what I know. So if I'm going to make money and I don't want to work at Walmart again, I should teach the kids. So I wanted to be able to have that opportunity if it was available. But not to talk up Dr. Barger, who's in the chat right now. But I just fell in love with Dr. Barker's teaching. I met her and I was like, oh, that's one sassy lady. But I thought that she was funny and she had a lot of the characteristics I liked. And whenever I talked to her about my interests and things that I liked or that I wanted to explore, she was very open and said, you know, you absolutely could do that. But we're also going to do the other things too, because you're going to be in the pyramid of clarinet playing, not the lopsided trapezoid. So I wanted to make sure that I had that full, range. Because now whenever I'm here at the peak doctoral level, but I feel like I'm prepared and I can do all those things and I can work with anybody and everybody and feel confident and have fun doing it, which is, I think, what you should get out of the teaching. I feel like I went on a bit of a sidebar tangent a little bit, but yeah, that's my response.
We all do that. How about you, Laura?
So I'm going to start with my undergrad. So when I was looking for my undergrad, sorry, my dog is like asking me to pet her. Okay. When I was looking for my undergrad, I wanted a place that was close to home and some place that offered a little bit more than just music. Cause at that point I still wasn't sure if music is what I wanted to go into. So when I was looking at like SUNY Potsdam. I'm from New York, so I'm going to say a lot of SUNY schools. So like SUNY Potsdam, SUNY Fredonia, Hofstra, LIU. And then I was looking at out-of-state stuff like Delaware and Penn State is where I wound up going, Maryland, and a few other places. And it was like, okay, I want a big school because I came from little teeny tiny second smallest school in Nassau County. So it was like, okay, well, I want to do that. I want to try marching band because my school doesn't have marching band. So let's narrow that down. And then it was also the biggest thing was finding a good teacher. So the biggest thing I would say is find out if schools have some type of fall visit day so you can go like see what a typical day is like. 'Cause usually they have you shadow students and you get to watch classes and you get a lesson and you get to even try some of the food because as an undergrad trying the school food and liking it is very important because some schools don't let you move off campus ever and some say yeah move off campus after your freshman year. So finding a place that you really enjoy and that offers what you're looking for is really helpful. But for me when I was looking, my two top choices were SUNY Potsdam and Penn State, both great schools for music ed. A lot of people told me go to SUNY Potsdam, it's cheaper. It has a much better music ed program, which maybe I didn't go there, so maybe, but I wanted Penn State because I also wanted to get out of New York. I wanted that big school atmosphere, and the Big Ten definitely gave me that with everything and more. It was a wonderful experience, and I loved it. And Dr. Costa there like changed my life, and I knew I wanted to get a master's eventually. And at first, I thought it was going to be in conducting after working with Dennis Glocke, who was there. And now it's Dr. Mitchell Spradlin. And then maybe my junior year, I said, Dennis Glocke said this thing, like, you can't teach music unless you really know it. And I said, well, I only really started playing my clarinet, like seriously, halfway through my junior year of high school. So the past 4.5 years, I've learned a lot and I could teach, but I want to be able to know more. So let me go into performance because I think I kind of like playing the clarinet. It's really fun and I want to get better. So when I was looking for my master's, I had an idea. I visited Baylor for my undergrad and I like silly me, I like the food. So when I was looking, that was one of the schools on my list. And then since it was COVID, it was kind of like, audition for whichever schools are offering assistantship. So I wound up auditioning to 8 schools because I didn't have to travel. I don't recommend that. Luckily, a lot of the schools ask for the same thing. But if you have to travel, 8 schools is not like financially feasible all the time, but for video recordings, it definitely was. And for those schools, since like Sarah said, you couldn't see the professors, but even in general, if a school is far away or even close by, definitely try setting up a trial lesson because that way you get to see how the professor works. And one of the biggest reasons why I chose Baylor is because Ron Campbell that's there in my lesson said, oh, this one section isn't great, let's fix it, and gave me a whole bunch of different practice techniques to fix this one section of Rossini's Introduction, Theme, and Variations. And it was like, oh, I've never tried this method before. This is really helpful. Whereas some of the other schools would say to me, oh, like, that sounds really nice. Good job. I'm so proud to like, thank you for this lesson today. Like, good job. It was just, they're happy to see me and trying to put on like a happy little face, which sometimes is really nice to see rather than someone saying, oh, you sound terrible. And you're like, okay. But for me, I wanted that brutal honesty. And then also at Baylor, as Diane knows Scott McAllister was there, and Scott McAllister is a huge influence on my life of clarinet playing. Funny enough, I actually hated Black Dog when I first heard it, and now I'm practicing it practically every day because I fell in love with everything about it. And so just finding out what the school offers rather than just the clarinet program, because yes, that's important. That is where you're going to be spending most of your time. But for me, I wanted to know, okay, like what's, like Emily said, what's the community involvement like? Like I joined a church choir and church orchestra at Baylor. Like, and I asked, what's chamber music like? And when do you get to interact with other departments or other instrumentalists outside of chamber music? So to me, working in a chamber setting was really important because that way I wouldn't just be in my little bubble. And some of my best friends were conducting majors, flute players, oboe players, percussionists, double bassists. Like it just became a whole little bubble that even though it was a big school, we just found like our nice little niche and we were able to just like move around and just explore and have a really fun time and just to grow all together, which was really nice.
I think that's a great point too. Like when you get to the program, when you finally find the place that you want to be, it's really important to let yourself grow. You have to not forget, obviously you want to remember where you came from, but you want to put yourself in a position to really spread your wings as a musician, as a person. And doing that will allow you to really find your passion. And it's going to go back to what we talked about during the entrepreneurship panel a little bit about like, yes, you're getting an education. Yes, you're learning how to play the clarinet, how to play in ensembles and chamber music. You're learning music theory. If you're doing music education, you're learning a whole bunch of other stuff, not just educational theories and best practices, but also how to play the trumpet and the trombone and the piano and strings and teach choir. You have a lot on your plate. And so finding a good network of peers who can help you, but not being afraid to walk up to a marimba player and say, hey, I heard this really cool piece. Do you want to play it together? Finding people to collaborate with is really going to open up that program for you. It's going to college is scary, but I consider every degree program that I pursued pivotal in points in my life, in what I learned and what I experienced, to shaping me as a person. So I think the pedagogy committee and the youth involvement committee and the youth committee can really flush out these details more for you. But if you ever have any questions, I encourage you to reach out to any of the state chairs or just reach out to the college professors in your area. Talk to your high school band director. Talk to your professor if you're currently studying in a program and debating about grad school, if it's right for you or not. People always want to help you. I think that's what you should know, is there's always going to be somebody who's willing to listen and willing to help you when you have questions and you want to learn and transition at different points in your life. And with that, I think we're almost done. I am excited to tell you that we have reached $6,000 in donations. Yay! Which is huge. I have set one last goal for tonight. I would love to surpass that. Our goal to reach $7,000. I'd like to remind you, if you're watching, to jump into the Zoom to participate in Name That Tune. We're going to take a little 5-minute period to let people join. You can't win the mystery prize if you aren't in the Zoom participating. So that is important. You can find the link on the ICA webpage under events. Please join us. We have the mystery wheel here. And I have curated a very, very challenging, also some not challenging pieces in the Name That Tune playlist. We have a bowl, Pokeball bowl, full of prize tickets from everybody that's donated in here. And I'm going to be drawing for a Shedville mouthpiece. I'm going to be drawing for free registration to Clarinet Fest. And that registration is a little bit in flux. I know that not everybody's going to be able to travel to Ireland. If you are going to Clarinet Fest and you win the registration, it can be applied to Clarinet Fest in Ireland, or it can be applied to Clarinet Fest 2025 in Texas, which I forgot to mention during our thing, but lots of cool stuff happening with that conference, which will be happening in 2025. Also have a clarimate. We're going to draw for this wonderful classmate. We have some threadless gift certificates and a couple memberships for non-members that you can give to a friend. So I want to give everybody a chance to get in here. 5 minutes. If you're here and you want to participate, just type in the chat that you would like to do so. I'm going to pin you so that you are focused in the video here, and then we will get started right around 9:05 or 9:10. Okay? Thanks so much.